thanks for joining me. My husband and I have been installing wood heating systems for 11 years, and in that time we've done servicing of them as well. I've learned a lot about wood heat in that many years, and today I need to light my wood stove, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to talk to you about how you can burn your wood stove properly and efficiently. So how I like to start my wood stove is with something called the top-down method. And what you do is open all your dampers up and you start with some big pieces on the bottom. So I'm going to do that. I have a Blaze King, so I have a great big damper in the back here and an air control valve. So you want to make sure your stove is entirely in the open position with as much oxygen as possible. I've got my big pieces here. I'm going to put them on the bottom. I could probably scoop up my ashes. We're not going to do that today. So I'm putting my big pieces in the bottom with a bit of a valley so I can start putting in my paper, squeezing it into the little area there. And I like to use a bit of birch bark as well. Good little trick. Cardboard is also awesome. Egg carton, that kind of thing. And then I'm going to crisscross my kindling on top of that. And depending on how your wood is, it creates this nice little valley, and you can kind of build a fire in between the two pieces nicely and support it, and then light it. Okay, for the first little bit I'm going to leave the door cracked, which is fine as long as you don't leave it unattended. Oh. How embarrassing. It's not going. Okay. Oh. So while that's warming up, I want to talk to you a little bit about proper burning technique. First off, it's very important that you have dry, seasoned wood. Your firewood should be around 16% moisture content. You should cut it up nice and small, and you should have it in a woodshed or shelter, somewhere where it gets lots of airflow. And the best time of year to get your firewood is in the spring, so you can control those conditions and get the optimum moisture content for the fall. I'd like to talk a bit about the proper burning procedure. It's really important that you're operating your stove properly and in a bit of a cycle or sequence. You'll get your optimum burn from burning your fire hot and allowing your stove to kind of go through a bit of a cycle. So when you're lighting your stove, it's really important to get it going really well and create a nice good coal base and have a raging fire, if you will, before you start to damp it down. What this does is create enough heat and fire within the wood itself to maintain a good clean burn for a long time. That's how these stoves are designed. Get them up into temperature, nice and hot, and then you can damp them down and you can get a really long burn, long clean burn. But if you're just opening your stove and putting a piece of wood on it, closing the door and shutting your damper down, the fire didn't have time to get that wood going, and so it's just sitting on a bed of coals smoldering. Ideally, or definitely most importantly, you need to have everything burning really well, and then your stove will burn it clean. If you're wondering if you're burning properly, you should go out and take a look at your chimney, what's coming out of your flue. When your stove is in the right operating temperature and damped down properly, you really shouldn't have much flue gas coming out of there. You should just see some clear heat streaks, and then you know you're burning well. If you just damped your stove down and you go outside and it's just billowing blue smoke, it's probably not hot enough to be damped down yet, and you should go inside and open your air control. Okay, my stove's been warming up for a little while. Got a nice little bed of coals getting started here, and it's time to start putting a few more pieces on the wood on that fire. I like to use smaller pieces and just be cautious not to crush it. Okay, so I've lit my fire. I've got some more pieces getting on there. They're getting going. So how do you know when it's time to damp your stove down? This is a Blaze King, and it has a thermostat on the top which will let you know when it's time. But all stoves should follow roughly the same procedure. You want to get that fire going really well and make sure all of the wood in your firebox has some flame on it before you start to damp it down. Okay, check it out. My stove is in the active range. So, for a Blaze King, that means I can now close the bypass damper. It's a catalytic stove, so there's an extra step. And I can start slowly turning down my air control. So that would be roughly the same procedure with any other stove model. You want to get it up to nice and hot in temperature before you start slowly damping it down. Once you do that, you should be able to get a good clean burn. Most stoves, 6-8 hours. These guys even boast like 24 hours. And once your cycle is complete, it's time to open your stove up, rake your coals out, fill it up with some nice firewood, and let it get right back up to temperature again. Because what that does is it burns out your flue and keeps everything nice and clean in there. If there was any kind of creosote built up from a long, slow burn, you're gonna fire that out of there, get your stove up to a good operating temperature, damp it back down, and start the whole cycle all over again. So a quick recap: burn well-seasoned wood, get your firewood in the spring, cut it small, store it in a place with good ventilation and where it's going to be kept dry. Burn your fire mindfully, keep it hot, cycle it properly, let it get going really well before you damp it down, and go skiing. Thanks for joining me here on Life on the 49th. If you have more wood stove questions, check out my channel and subscribe. Have a good day.